And pointed out that Trump himself bought a Tesla that day, and it's still parked there at the White House. So now Donald Trump is a Tesla owner who hates Elon Musk? He's never been more relatable. I can't believe it. Game sees game.
Stephen Colbert weighing in on President Trump's attack on Tesla, part of Trump's public feud yesterday. Feud puts it mildly with Elon Musk. Welcome back to Morning Joe. It is Friday, June 6th. Jonathan Lemire, Ali Vitale still with us and joining the conversation, Pulitzer Prize-winning columnist and MSNBC political analyst Eugene Robinson, managing editor at The Bulwark Sam Stein, and former Republican Congressman Carlos Curbelo of Florida. He is an MSNBC analyst. Let's dive right into this war between President Trump and Elon Musk, the president threatening to cut Elon Musk's government contracts. Over the past few days, Musk has been ramping up his criticism of the president's domestic policy bill, calling on lawmakers to kill the legislation, saying it will raise the national deficit, which it will. President Trump addressed those comments yesterday, saying Musk is just upset about the cuts to electric vehicle mandates.
I've always liked Elon, and it's always very surprised. You saw the words he had for me, the words of, and he hasn't said anything about me that's bad. I'd rather have him criticize me than the bill, because the bill is incredible. He knew every aspect of this bill. He knew it better than almost anybody, and he never had a problem until right after he left.
Musk reacted to the president's remarks in a slew of social media posts, defending his stance on the domestic spending bill and going much, much further. He also replied to a clip of President Trump claiming he would have, quote, won Pennsylvania regardless of Elon, writing, quote, without me, Trump would have lost the election. Such ingratitude, wrote Musk of the president. Shortly after, President Trump pushed back on his own social media site, Truth Social, posting, Elon was wearing thin. I asked him to leave. I took away his EV mandate that forced everyone to buy electric cars. That's not true. That nobody else wanted, and he just went crazy. There are electric vehicle tax credits. Then the president suggested terminating Musk's governmental subsidies to save money in the federal budget, to which Musk wrote, SpaceX will begin decommissioning its Dragon spacecraft immediately. Musk also ramped up his attacks on the president, claiming without evidence that Trump is mentioned in the Jeffrey Epstein files. Epstein, of course, a multimillionaire accused of sex trafficking young girls, but died by suicide in a Manhattan jail before his trial started. Trump has denied any involvement in Epstein's criminal activities. The feud between Musk and Trump did simmer a bit later in the day when the president posted this. I don't mind Elon turning against me, but he should have done so months ago. This is one of the greatest bills ever presented to Congress. Sam Stein, I'll just start with you and open the floor about what we all watched yesterday. As John and I were discussing, this was enough to actually get people to put X back on their phones for the first time in a long time to watch this back and forth. What did you make of what you saw? What do you think the implications are for the so-called big, beautiful bill?
So, yes, it was riveting and delicious. But also then you step back and you realize these are kind of emotionally unstable men who are the power brokers of the universe, right? It's like the president and the richest man in the world just throwing absolute haymakers at each other in deeply personal terms, accusations of pedophilia, canceling government contracts that would be critical to our space system, you know, implicating tax revenues and the signature piece of domestic legislation for the country. I mean, it's like, what are we actually doing here? Maybe they need to take it offline, but then we wouldn't have all the entertainment. I'm left wondering how this kind of gets put back together, and maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. Obviously, you referenced what appeared to be a detente, but you know, once you accuse someone of being on the Jeffrey Epstein list, it's hard to like take that back. And Gene, I don't know, like where do we go from here? Well, two extremely egotistical men with also extremely fragile egos. Yeah. You know, maybe they can find a way to patch things up, and I could see it, but like, how does that happen?
Right. The world's most powerful man and the world's richest man. They're both big babies with huge egos. What could possibly go wrong? Well, we saw yesterday what could go wrong. I think it probably cools down. I don't think they're ever BFFs again, right? They're not, the bromance is over, clearly, after the things they said yesterday. So they're not going to be hugging. And I don't think Trump is going to be driving his Tesla, although I don't think he drives anything.
He might be keying the Tesla.
Exactly, he might be keying the Tesla, right, or, torching it. But they both have a lot at stake here. They both have a lot to lose.
Who has more at stake?
Who has Musk? Musk has more at stake, absolutely, because he's, the president, the most powerful man in the world. So Musk is like threatening, I'm going to shut down, SpaceX's Dragon, and you won't be able to get to the space shuttle. I think the president can nationalize SpaceX if he can call an emergency and say, okay. So the president has a lot of cards to play in any situation. And I think plus all of Musk's contracts, his net worth went down like $34 billion yesterday, which even for a man that rich is not a pleasant thing. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, he is pretty crazy.
So, Carlos, beyond the grab your popcorn element of watching this play out yesterday, there are the practical questions about what it means for this massive bill. So what do you think about what your former colleagues, the Republican colleagues who've always fallen in line with Donald Trump, do with what they just saw yesterday? It seems to be the consensus, in listening to Speaker Johnson respond to Elon Musk yesterday, that they will fall in line with President Trump and not side with their benefactor, Elon Musk, who helped many of them get elected or reelected. So what's your sense of how this impacts this massive piece of legislation Republicans are trying to push through?
Well, that's right, Willie. Look, Elon Musk was a big part of the coalition that Donald Trump put in place in 2024. An impressive coalition, right? For him, especially, a lot of people didn't think he could get the popular vote, and he did. And that was in large part thanks to Elon Musk's support. And by the way, there's also this cultural phenomena associated with Elon Musk, which was also part of the Trump movement. Now that is fractured, and I can tell you that congressional Republicans are getting anxious about this. Elon Musk has a lot of money. He spent nearly $300 million to help Trump get elected. For a lot less, he could be influential when it comes to congressional elections. And some of these Republicans are wondering, is Elon actually going to come and spend money against me if I vote for this bill? And $1 million in a tough congressional district goes a very long way. So this is going to complicate the path for this bill. Do I think they get it done eventually? Yes, but this is going to make it a little harder.
I guess I'm curious, because what he wants changed in this bill is basically the EV tax credits to be restored. We don't really actually know. He keeps talking about deficit and debt. That would just be about the tax extension of the Trump tax cut. So do you see substantive changes at the behest of Elon Musk, or is this just, what is the end game for
Well, look, here? Elon Musk's public positioning is that what he cares about is government spending. And by the way, he does have a record to kind of back that up. This is part of the tension in the Trump coalition, the MAGA movement, which really doesn't care about government spending, about reforming entitlements, and then classic conservatives. And I think Musk is more of a classic conservative who wants to see the size of government reduced. So that tension's there. If they make those kinds of changes to the bill, I guess Musk will have to swallow it. The White House is alleging that this is all about the EV tax credit, but some people will tell you, Musk doesn't really care for the EV tax credit, because if it goes away, it's actually a barrier to entry for competitors.
But, the interesting thing, though, is, so I think populist MAGA clearly goes with Trump, and I think the Republican base basically goes with Trump. But there's the tech Republican base, right? All these tech bazillionaires who piled into the MAGA coalition, but never were really of it. They didn't really agree with a lot of what Trump was saying and doing. And a lot of those people have a lot of personal and business interests to stay on the good side of Elon Musk. So that could be kind of a split in MAGA. You could see the tech side kind of.
And it's a new coalition. Lemire, I'm kind of curious for your take on this, because you've covered Trump more than anyone else here. He doesn't really like forgiveness. I think once you get on his bad side, you're on his bad side. But in this case, Elon is worth a fair chunk of money. He did help. He has promised a $100 million check, which has not been written, we should note. What do you predict Trump will do? Will he take him back? Is he going to make him growl a little bit? I mean, how does this work for Trump?
You're right that Trump not really in the forgiveness business. And the most grievous insult that Musk hurled yesterday was not about Jeffrey Epstein, but rather Musk taking credit for Trump's win. That is where I think that people around the president said yesterday that may be a bridge too far. Will, there was a report last night that Musk and Trump were going to speak today. Actually, NBC News just a few moments ago says White House says that's not the case. There are no plans for a call between Musk and Trump today. So we will see. There was an effort. Musk late last night was tweeting a little bit, response to tweets, Bill Altman, others, suggesting he did want to de-escalate this. He said that he wouldn't decommission the Space Dragon program. We'll see. But Ali,